Hey, it's Chrissy and Amanda.
Two girls from Saskatchewan, Canada, living the Reiki life while working the 9-to-5. Hey everyone, welcome back in. This is episode 31, and you are here with Amanda.
And Christy.
Yes, and we are really hoping you are enjoying summer. Things are getting pretty wild here in Canada right now, so there are big massive fires out in Jasper, Alberta, and hitting up Banff as well. So if you have time, it would be really awesome if you could send some Reiki to that way so the land can heal and transition, and everyone who is in that place just can feel our love. And we are so strong in numbers. So us as a community, if you have time just before bed, just think of them and just think of sending them some Reiki just to help. Because, yeah, it's pretty wild going on there right now. Not to start this off on a downer, but, you know, it's our reality, and all those people are us, right? So, yeah, if you have time, just send them some Reiki. And on now other notes, Christy, what is going on with you?
Yeah, I was trying to think of an update here, and I had an interesting Reiki session the other day I wanted to share. I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody else, but this is the first time it happened to me. So my client, she was open to connecting to any type of loved one that comes by, because I usually ask if a loved one comes by, would you be open to hearing from them? Because you can't assume that everybody is going to be like, yeah, of course, because I don't know where someone is in their grief journey, or if they want to hear from someone, they might just want Reiki for themselves. Like, I just want to respect their needs. So she was open. So when I believe I was in the Crown, and I seen this older man come by, he was really tall and he had suspenders and he had like fluffy white hair. Like, I seen him pretty clear, and I was like, oh, this must be a grandpa or maybe an uncle. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm glad a loved one came by. And then I started approaching him, and I got like a weird feeling, and I was like, okay, like, who are you? I want to, like, tell me more. Like, who are you? So I can deliver messages to my client. And he wouldn't tell me. And he just like almost was like standoffish. And I was like, okay, maybe he's shy. I don't know. And I remember reading from Shaman Derek, and I believe Elizabeth April said this too. If an energy comes toward or is like around you and approaches you, you can ask them who they are, and they have to state who they are. If they're in like the love and light, right? They have to show who they are. And I asked him, and he wouldn't. And it was so bizarre. It was like this zipper undone. Like, oh, it's hard to explain. It was like a sleeping bag was over top of him, and then the zipper comes undone, and then all of a sudden, like, this monster appears underneath him. And I was like, this is so weird. And it was kind of freaky, this monster looking like gooey black thing. And then right away I was like, okay, he's showing me his true form. Like, he's not this sweet grandpa. He's actually like a dark energy, and he's hanging out in her energetic field. And he was attached to the house as well that she lives in. And I was like, this is an earthbound. I was like, he can't be here. I was like, okay, let's get rid of him. I was like, I don't really want to like engage. Like, what's going on? Like, why are you here? I was like, let's just, how's that saying go? I don't care where you go, but you can't stay here type of thing. Mm-hmm. So I called in Archangel Michael, of course. And then I believe I called in Jesus as well, like for some backup. And right away, like I pictured like a vacuum, and Archangel Michael just sucked him up and then like sent him out. And then that was it. He was gone. So I was like, thank goodness.
Whoa, nice. That's so good that it was that easy.
Yeah, I know. I was quite worried because I've never come across like an energy like that before. I just like, whoa. But you know, it's looking back like at how far I've come in my journey. Like, if that happened to me 4 years ago, that would have scared me like a lot. And now it's like I stood in my power and I was like, hey, who are you? You can't be here. Like, get lost, you know? So that says a lot to where I've come from. So yeah, I was proud of that.
You should be. Good for you. Mm-hmm. Yes. And you know that, like, even if you're not religious, Jesus was an amazing man and healer. And calling in that Jesus Christ conscious, like that beautiful Christ white light, is so powerful. Like if you're ever in a position, you're kind of like, is there something there and I'm feeling uncomfortable? Like call in that love and that light that he
Yeah.
brings, because it will raise your vibration so high that those lower energies can't be attached to it anymore, because you've just raised yourself by thinking of that light surrounding you.
Yeah.
So always do that. That was such a good call.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like I didn't doubt Archangel Michael couldn't get it done, but it was, I guess maybe it was almost for me, just like to
Yeah.
feel that protection, because it is that powerful. And I know people feel different about when you bring up Jesus, right? But from our point of view in the Christ consciousness, that's where I view it from, I guess you could say.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Yes.
Did you hear
Yeah.
anything from the client the next day? Like, did they notice any difference? Some people
No.
don't have the awareness, but some do.
Yeah, some do. And it's like
Or
he
it
was
might
just
not
kind
be
of,
right away.
yeah. Yeah, I should follow up with her. It was just a couple days ago and just see if she has noticed like a shift within the house or shift within her. Because he was like siphoning her energy,
Mm.
just being in the energetic field, just hanging out like this black blob. It's like, okay, get out of here.
Yeah. Leech.
Yeah,
Get.
yeah, exactly. You just never know what's going to happen in a Reiki session. It's so
I
funny.
know, and that's why it's so great. It's different
Yeah.
every time.
It literally is. Like sometimes I'll have like the same theme come across with some clients where it's like, okay, you need to follow your heart and enjoy the journey. Like that can be a common theme, but different, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's like, what's that saying that like police and firefighters have? It's like never the same day twice. It's like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
like
that's
motto for
right.
Reiki as well.
That's so true. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. And speaking of Reiki sessions, you have something to share with us.
Yeah. So my update, everybody, is I got my master's in Usui Reiki this week. And so I'm officially going to start teaching. And I'm so excited. This has been such a long time coming, and it's kind of been a bumpy road to get here, but it's been my path that I've been supposed to take. So super, super excited about it. So I took my Reiki master's, like I've started it, and I went home and I was feeling so good. And then the next day, I was almost panicking. I was like, oh my God, this is real. I was having crazy imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to teach? There are people who live in temples who've been doing this for 20 years. Like, who's going to want to take this from you? Oh, I just went through it. And I had to text Christy and, like, you got to help me out here. Like, I'm on the ledge for some reason today. It was almost like my ego was just trying to, like, talk me out of this. So luckily that didn't last long. And the next day I was actually feeling much better and just, focused on the mission and how I'm going to teach, which is going to be small. I'm going to teach intimate classes so people can have like one-on-one attention, and I can give them my all, and it can be personal. And the attunement can be like an intimate and beautiful experience where I'm calling in all their angels and guides and seeing exactly the message, because it's just our energy together. And anyways, I have this plan and I'm really excited about it now. So if you're interested in that, like reach out to me. I would prefer to do attunements in person, but we can still learn together. And I'm going to teach kind of how I intuitively Reiki. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. But it's been a really good journey, and I had my attunement just like last night, and that was really good too. My Reiki teacher calls me like a hybrid because of like the qigong and everything else I do and the channeled energy that comes through me. So it was pretty good. She saw some pretty cool things and a symbol actually too. So yeah, I'm really excited. That's my cool update.
Yeah, that's like the biggest update of the year. That's a huge deal. 'Cause I know how much you've wanted this and everything you've gone through to get here. And it was just amazing to watch your journey. And now that you can help other people on their spiritual journey, because I think of me and you when we first started and our level 1 and how excited we were and how little we knew at that time. but it's just such a fun thing to, like a fun journey to start, because really what you're doing in that level 1 is you're getting to know yourself and your energy. And that is just can leak out into every area of your life. It's so important. It's almost like everyone should take level 1, I believe.
Oh,
Like it would just be so
yeah.
beneficial. If you have kids, if you have dogs, like the chakra system, like it's just such a good toolbox, or like tool to have in your toolbox. Like
Yeah,
even
I
if you
agree.
don't even want to be like a practitioner one day, just doing it for yourself is, yeah, something I would highly recommend. And I guess if you're listening to this podcast, you probably are interested in that route.
Yeah, I agree. That level 1 is just, we're so much bigger than just our physical bodies. And
Yes.
people can tune into that. Like, you are that powerful. And if you're listening to this, you 100% have that capability. And it's just, let's tune into it and let's find out what's special that is for you only
Yeah.
and use it, you know? Mm-hmm.
I love that. And I love the idea of having 2 people in the class, because that's how we learned. And it was really intimate, and I wouldn't change that, because we could practice on each other. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty cool, because I did a class where there was eight of us, and it didn't feel as the teacher had a much time with each person. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, like a group of friends, like 2 or 3 max, like that would be, yeah, I love that too, that idea. Because then they can practice on each other and
Yeah.
just have that buddy system afterwards. Not that they can't
Yes.
message me, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
good.
just neat to have someone go through it at the same time that you do. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is going on in the astrology this month?
Okay, yeah. So August is lit. There's some really cool stuff happening in August. So, on August 4th, we have a new moon. It's called the new Sturgeon moon, and it's going to be in Leo. So this is actually usually a really nice new moon, as Leo is a really positive, flashy fire sign. I always think of celebrities when I think of Leos. They're just really outgoing and usually pretty sunny. Leo is the sun card in the tarot deck, and strength, which is a woman petting a lion. So that really like nurturing, that you can tame the lion. This is a creative full moon with Leo being a fire sign. So I think of the sacral and the inner child and what really brings, like, what really fills up our heart. Now might be a really good time to travel and explore as well and like be adventurous. Mercury also goes into retrograde though, right after this new moon. So if you are booking any flights or have plans, you may just want to like double check them, because the retrograde is notorious for things like that, like contract things or just sneaky little, I don't know, shit goes weird with retrogrades. So just double check your stuff if you're traveling.
Yes.
And then after that, I'm going to go, we have the Lionsgate portal on 8/8, but I'm going to go to the full moon first. So we have the full moon on August 19th in Aquarius, which is called the seasonal blue moon. So Aquarius is an air sign. And in the tarot deck is the star card, which actually, I didn't know if I knew this, which is the number 17, which actually makes the number 8 as well. So it really goes, interestingly enough, with our 8/8 portal. And then this is also transitioned into the number 8 when you break it down, that 1 plus 7. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And this full moon is all about growing that independence and being true to ourselves. So this seems super fitting with what's going on lately. This is a great energy if we're feeling stuck or kept in a box lately, time to break out. When I see the star card in the tarot, I always think of good things being brought forth to us, that water being very cleansing as well. So it's the person kind of standing and has one foot in the water, one on the grass, and kind of like siphoning and recycling the water. And then this huge star in the middle, like almost like that Sirius star, the brightest star. So I always think of that wish fulfillment coming in too. So yeah. And then we have the hugest event, which I think almost of the year personally, is we have the Lion's Gate, the 8/8 portal. So that 8 is that infinity sign. And This portal is going to be open for 2 weeks. So it starts late July and it usually goes into mid-August. This date can also be known as the Galactic New Year. So also remember, this is the year of the 8 as well. So I feel like this is even more potent with us being in the year of the 8. So the Lion's Gate, so this is when the sun is in alignment with the star Sirius, Orion's belt, and Earth. So like, why do we care about this? The Sirius star is the brightest star in the sky and is considered to be a spiritual sun. Sirius brings wealth, abundance, and fortune and fame. So this is a really good time to manifest if you want to. Like, really just be conscious and aware of this day and do what you can to just soak it in. Like, you don't need to meditate all day, but just having that awareness and let it fill into your heart and think of those good things. That's personally what I plan on doing. I'm going to do my meditation probably in the morning, and then I'm just going to be really present throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it's funny, I looked on the calendar right away. I was like, oh, is it on a weekend? So I can just be outside all day, but I think it's on a Thursday. So I'll try and soak in some sun in the morning and then after work. Because, yeah, I look back at the past Lions Gate, like when I learned about it, and I always was intentional about being outside, whether I had anything planned that day or not. I just feel like just being in the sun that day is just extra potent. And I found like something interesting, like about the ancient Egyptians. So they're strongly connected to the Sirius. And as the pyramids were built, they were built perfectly to align with Sirius, which is really interesting as well. Like those Egyptians were locked in, like they had things figured out. Like it's just wild.
Oh,
Like,
they had galactic influence for sure.
yes,
Like
100%.
the shape of a pyramid, like that's not an accident.
No.
That shape is so powerful.
Oh,
Yeah.
it really is. Yeah, we could definitely go down the rabbit hole of the Egyptians one day. But yeah, I was going to say that I got my master's attunement on Lionsgate. And you know what, Amanda? Like you just got your attunement. Is the portal open right now that we're in Leo season?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, well, see,
Totally
that's
it is.
interesting, hey?
Yeah, that is. That
Yeah. And I just remember it being such a powerful day. It was such neat. Like so neat how it all lined up. And that would also be like another thing to be aware of, like what kind of synchronicities are in that day? Like what's going on? Who the people around you and the events. I don't know. It'd just be kind of fun to tune into that.
Yeah. And like the collective energy as a whole is going to be super strong. So you can pull from that too.
Mm-hmm.
And help anchor your manifestations in.
Yes. And I need to get clear on what I want. So maybe by that time, I'll know what I want to do with a decision that we were talking about before we hopped on here. So yeah, I think that'd be a good goal. Bring that in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into our episode today.
Yeah, we have a super special guest today. We actually saw her live back in May. So I was driving to work the one day, and I was sitting at a red light, and I seen this big billboard, and it was like medium at Dakota Dunes, and I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, that looks like fun. So I took down or like remembered the information. I got to work and I Googled it, and I was like, cool, yeah, so let's invite some friends. So I emailed the old gang and I was like, hey guys, you want to go out for my birthday? Let's go see this medium. And everyone right away was like, hell yeah, let's go. So it was fun. We made a night of it. We went out for supper and then we went to the show, and it was not what I expected in a good way. Like, was it, or how would you describe your experience?
Oh, I had a hoot. Like I had a hoot. Is that a saying anymore? That's
hoot,
what I had.
I know. I think I was like slapping my knee, like laughing. Like I was literally laughing out loud like the entire time.
Who knew death could be so funny?
Yeah. Yeah, she was just so good. And we were so excited to actually sit down one-on-one with her. And pick
Yeah.
her brain and ask like how she works, because it's so fascinating, each medium, because everybody works the same but different, and it's just seeing how they flow. And yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you guys too
Yeah.
do
And
too.
one thing I just really liked about her is that she wasn't like, she's not the type to be sitting on top of a mountain meditating.
Yeah.
Like she just was super real and like, yeah, I go to Walmart. I don't want to hang around other people. I don't know, I just loved the realness of her. It was
Yeah.
just like, you get this perception how you think spiritual people should be or how they are. And I just love how she blew all that out of the water. And I was like, yes. Oh, and
Yeah.
she really gave me the gears in this episode, which
Oh
I
yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Christy and I were talking. We were making that joke about how she was like the tarot of the stuff you need to hear.
Yes. Yeah. Not the oracle. No, it was definitely the tarot. Yeah. Let me tell you like I see it, and this is what you need to hear whether you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
or not. Yeah.
It was awesome. When I was editing this, I was like, wow, this is so good even to listen again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we hope you enjoy because we sure did. And
Hmm.
let us know what you thought. And she has other dates coming up if you're listening to this like in real time. Go check her out if you're in Canada.
Yeah. And we'll link all those dates or her contact information below.
Mhm. Christy and I had the honor of going to see Jennie Ogilvie live at the Dakota Dunes Casino to celebrate Christy's birthday. Jennie is labeled as Canada's unconventional medium, and to me, it's the best approach. She is raw, hilarious, tell it like it is, what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. She has been practicing mediumship for over 16 years, but has always been especially connected to spirit and to spirits. She recently wrote a book called Inside My Head, talking about growing up in Nova Scotia and talking to spirits and when she really stepped into her own. We cannot wait to personally pick your brain and find out how it all happens for you. So, welcome, Jennie.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
Yes, the show was so good in Saskatoon. We had a riot. I just love your approach. It's so funny and so lighthearted, making light of something that can be so heavy. It's just awesome.
Well, thank you. I think it's important that we have a dialogue change around this because it is uncomfortable as taxes, right? And nobody likes to do taxes and nobody likes to talk about death. So the point is that we all have to do that. We're all going to have to do our taxes and we're all going to have to look at grief and one day we'll die. So it's really about the conversations ahead of it rather than behind it. So I mean, there's no better way than just to have all of your thoughts in your mind and you get to share that with people and really have them starting that little spark in their minds of going, okay, well, what if I did look at it like this? And you can see like in shows, I guess from where I stand, everyone comes in with their friends, but they all leave as like this group of people that experience the same thing. And so for me, it felt like I say, I'm hanging out with 500 of my closest new friends. Like, how can you not appreciate the people that give you your time and are open to that and just saying, okay, well, this isn't what I was expecting. I'm like, well, then I asked, because there was a lady at Dakota Dune and she said, I'm buying your book. This wasn't what I was expecting. And I looked at her and I said, well, what were you expecting? And she couldn't answer.
Oh.
Right. So it's that next step of conversations, that I think are important. And I think that that's kind of where even everything with a show is ad-libbed. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. But it just seems that when you're in the moment, everything just happens for a reason. Is that what you felt?
Oh yeah, like everything, it just flowed together so nicely. Like there wasn't any like awkward pauses or something. It was just like bang, bang, bang. And then you would like tell about yourself and then you would connect with loved ones. I really enjoyed the flow of the show. It was so good. And that was like the first live medium show I've actually gone to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good luck when you go to other ones now.
Yeah, you set the bar high.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's the bar as high. It's just that I'm so in my own little element over here that, there are other people that I'm sure are really great at what they do. But it's also really about being personable and authentic, and that whole idea of not trying, like, why do we do this stuff, right? Like, why do I stand up on stage and do this? And that's a question I've really had to ask. Like, who wants to get up there and be judged by 500 people, or loved or not liked? But I think that, my journey and the purpose that is becoming more clear about this is, just these honest, hard conversations that need to happen. Because I see so much pain, in working with people about what they didn't get or what wasn't unsaid, that was unsaid and all of that. So I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No, it's so great. You bring such your own personal things to it as well. It really relaxes people. And when you make light and you're like, hey, this is me, it just makes light, and it takes that edge off people who are just kind of almost holding their breath.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's so fun to work with, right? Because then we sit holding our breath out of desperation rather than availability.
Yep.
And desperation, say if, I had a lady, her mom passed, and, she was so worried because her mom was so sick and so ill in the physical world that she wanted to make sure that she got to where she was going okay. And I'm trying to kind of sort through that statement. I'm going, okay, so what is it that you really need? And where do you think she's gone? Because when you honestly think about it, when you lose your loved one, you know exactly where they are. They're here, right? But where's here to them? And the distance that people create between their own connections with themselves and with their past loved ones is a you choice, right? If you keep them at arm's length, there's a good chance you won't hear the whisper in your ear. Make sense?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Does.
It does. And it was so interesting watching you work, like on stage. Like, I could tell that you were getting information like coming in. So we were curious, like, how does spirit show up for you? Like, are you seeing things? Are you feeling things? Like, hearing? Like, what's going on?
Oh, wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah, we would.
Okay, this is the best way I can explain it to people that need to have a visual. Do you know how you're going from point A to point B, and you get to point B and you don't remember your drive because your mind is out wandering while what I call the bitch self is driving you from point A to point B, right? You're out playing in your little spiritual field out there, and you might be thinking along the lines of, do Smurfs have teeth, or do geese fly? Whatever these random things. But do you ever notice that once you're at your destination, you sometimes sit there and think, okay, why was I thinking about that? And you try to trace it back.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So imagine me up there, standing in front of the crowd, and then my mind is out playing in that field. And what happens is, I don't know if this was the Dakota Dunes one, but I think the show after that, I was up there, and my head was, those faces that I make on stage. I'm like, no. Okay, what's that? And all of a sudden, just very quickly, it was like a flash. And I saw this young girl, and she was telling me she had some form of leukemia and that her name was Sarah. And then the niece was the one that had leukemia and passed, and the family was there. And her name was Sarah, and she had this leukemia, and she talked about certain things. And it's almost as if, as much as I know I'm sitting on Zoom with two people, one with blonde hair and one with brown hair, is as much as I know that to be true. Does that make sense? Because you have no room for self-doubt when you're working with any energy, yourself, other people's energy, spirit. Spirit is energy. So you can't handcraft that into something that works for you. And I learned a long time ago that if I'm going to do this work, I'm just going to tell you what I get, and I'm not going to fill in the blanks for you. Like, this is not my stuff, and that's it, right? Like, what there was. I remember the Dakota Dunes. We had some pretty good validations. Is there one specific that you remember?
Oh, I feel like every single one.
Yeah,
Like, okay, the first lady actually that came that you addressed, she had so much passing. And you talked about like her daughter's tumors that she had. I don't know if you remember that one, but she had like everyone who passed around her. I thought, holy hell, anyone needs someone to come through for her. Like she needs it the worst out of anyone. Because you could just tell there was a lot of heaviness around her and just arguing with the family and all that. Like it was like names and miscarriages and holy, there was everything came through.
It's interesting, hey?
Yeah.
So interesting.
So
Especially that you get names so clearly, I find is just unbelievable. Because we both dabble. We're obviously not nearly as strong as you are. It's amazing.
oh, don't say that. That's actually impossible. There's nothing about me being strong. And I use this as an example. You might be better at pole dancing than connected to energy. And I certainly am not high on the list for pole dancing. But you know, you're only going to get good at what you get good at. And if you get good at dabbling, you're just going to stay dabbling. So pick a lane, right? Like if this is something that is really important to you, you need to lean back in that river and float and just go with the flow because we can't control it. And that's why we say, I'm trying, or I'm dabbling, or I'm doing all of this. You're creating an excuse for you not to commit to it.
You know, that's actually a really good point. I heard the best thing that goes with that. And somebody said, well, try to stand up. And it's like, okay, you know, either I could stand up. There's no really such thing as trying to stand. So it's the same thing. That's really true. Okay.
Whereas they say in Nova Scotia, shit or get off the pot. Somebody else is.
Yeah.
That's a good one too.
Let me ask you why you chose the word dabbling. What does that word give you permission to do?
Oh, it gives me permission that if things don't connect really awesome, it gives me like a safety net out. When I'm just saying I'm new at this or things might not, I don't know. I guess I'm scared of that. People are going to think that I'm like this big fraud, I guess, deep down, you know, it's like, because I'm not getting, you know, the names and the specifics, but it's like I can
feel it. Are you a fraud at being a good friend?
Say that again.
Are you a fraud at being a good friend?
No, definitely not.
Are you a fraud at being a good partner?
No, I'm a good partner.
Okay, so how is it that you know that you have this much experience feeling like you wouldn't be great at that if you are engaging your life pretty passionately and connected?
Yeah, I think I need to let some of that go.
You know, there's this idea that the average person has about 60,000 thoughts a day. And if you had 10 compliments and one criticism, which one do you remember the most? Right? And so why is that? And that is the moment before you start dabbling, you need to decide what kind of, you know, runners that you want to put on when you're running the race. You know, you're not going to climb a mountain in high heel shoes because that would be dabbling in climbing a mountain with high heel shoes. Right? You know, pick your pair of shoes and be comfortable in them, and nobody else has to walk in them but you. And so I always say that if people have an opinion about you, they're clearly don't have enough things going on in their life to keep them occupied about their own journey. So, I mean, that's a them problem. The let them from Mel Robbins, just let them.
Yeah.
And when I truly let them just do them is when that next piece of names, like I'm going to say, even up until last year, I didn't even start really hearing names. And I just like, well, who's Jimmy? Oh, well, that's my husband's name. Okay, well, who's Sarah? Da, 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 da. And was it the Pete and the Pete?
Linda.
Yeah, Pete and Linda. Like, what?
Yeah.
I know.
You saw me on stage when I'm getting like boom, 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 and they're like, yes, yes, yes. And then I'm even jumping for joy going, yeah.
I know your confidence is amazing.
Yes.
And like that not needing that validation. Like, do you find that just comes with time? Like, I feel like you're so funny up there. You're just like, I don't need to be validated. Or you're like, I know I'm right. Somebody speak up. I know this is what's happening, kind of a thing. And it's like, what is that like to just fully trust, I guess, and just not needing that validation? I wondered if that ever truly happened.
I think if we were going to have honest conversation around that, we'd actually have to back up a little bit, because it's never about the experience. It's about who you want to be through it. And so I have a choice, as I always say, and I don't know if I can swear on here.
Yes.
But in my book, I talk about fuck sandwiches, right? I mean, I can choose to jump down a rabbit hole, eat fuck sandwiches and shit stew and wonder if I'm right or wrong, or I can just go take my shoes off and dance in a field. And so for me, creating who I want to be before I get on stage, and it becoming very clear to me that I'm not going to negotiate that. I've had enough experience in my life to know what works for me in the now versus what it doesn't. So it truly is a personal choice. And when you do this work, ladies, it's really important to stand back and see what you're doing in your own life, right? Mm-hmm. So if I want this space to go and play, and people want to come and play in the Tonka toys with me in my sandbox for those 2 hours, they certainly can. But I think it's more important to understand who we are, like for you who doubts the idea, the dabbling idea. Well, if you take this away and you start looking at your life, you're going to see where you question everything. So why would I expect you to do anything different when you're trying to decide if you want to jump in or not? Right? It comes to this point where, you can't control life. They say either life happens to you or for you, right? So it's that real big piece of being present. And when you're present, all this information is there. That's why I say there's nothing special. It's all happening around the both of you. It's happening around me. It's whether I want to listen to it or not. Oh, right. You see what I mean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people like to focus on, the last time my mom came to visit me was in my dream and she was sitting on my bed. I wish she would come and connect with me more. And I said, but when was the last time you were available for that? Right. We think that our loved ones, their job after they pass out of the physical body is to come and hang out with us. I'm like, they were just here. They probably want to chill out or something, right? Whatever, as a joke. But I think it's really important to understand that you still have a responsibility in that relationship to show up.
Right.
To make time, to have the conversations, to feel what you want to feel. And if we want to mislabel that as now that they're gone and it's grief, we can. Nobody's stopping you. But grief is the biggest contributor to keeping people at arm's length. We're grieving what we don't have versus what's available.
Yes.
Makes
That's
sense?
so true. Yeah. Just like how you talked about people focusing on those last days. Like, I couldn't get there to say goodbye. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. Were they in pain? Like all these questions. And even like my dog, it's like, did I wait too long to say goodbye? Like all these things run through your mind. And it's like, no, I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on all those fun times, all those laughs we shared. Not like you said, like, was it the second of the day or
1 second of one day, your loved ones die. It's literally 1 second. And really step back and think about that, because we say that often. Your life can change in the blink of an eye or in a split second, right?
Mm-hmm.
A crash only happens in 1 second. A death only happens, right? It's everything. And it goes to show you how important every second is. And if you're going to be in that moment, why don't you feel everything so that you can experience what you were given literally in your life to experience, like this entire menu of visceral feelings, right? Pick one and enjoy it.
Yes, I love that.
So Jennie, since your show was so funny and just bringing that comedy into your mediumship and forgoing that love and light, I find that Christy and I, we kind of laugh at it. How people who I find are really into the spiritual community or just who feel really connected to source are all about the love and light and yeah. It just feels like if you're not like that, it's just like, well, how connected are you? Or you don't get it. Or it just kind of feels, oh, I don't even know what I'm really.
I'm on the other side of that, ladies, going, why does that all have to be like that?
I know, who started that? Mm-hmm. And it just feels like if I'm not, in that, and I just, that's not me. I like the comedy, the light, It's way better. And I feel like you're almost at a higher vibration anyways when you're like that.
Well, isn't that true? Look at what laughter does.
Yes.
Look at what releasing does. Like when we release something, and I've had quite a few people this past week on tour come up to me and say, I'm leaving here feeling a lot lighter. And I'm like, well, that's awesome. That goes to show that you came because you were drawn to and you heard something that shifted. And that is the whole entire journey of the idea of happiness is an inside job. So is healing. So is closure. It's an inside job. So you're allowing something to come in and shift that dialogue and you're not filtering it through such a negative, river here. And have you ever heard of that word charlatan? Where people will say, oh yeah, I went there and I don't really think like she's just a charlatan. She doesn't know really what she's doing and everything's generic. Well, and then there's, I think I'm good at what I do and I'm okay saying that now. I'm really good at being me, doing what I'm doing. And that to me is the most important. And it doesn't matter whatever I'm doing. So I go into this, I'm just understanding like it's right there. So I just need to listen. And so for me, when I see that these people are all the same, and I call them Walmart mediums or Walmart psychics, if that is what you're connected to, I always say to people, go fill your boots, float your boat if that's what you need. But I guarantee you that there's nobody in this physical world that will answer your hard questions because you pay them and they have no emotional and vested interest in you whatsoever. But please note that if you go and get this type of information, it's going to change the trajectory of your life in a way that you're still going to end up at the spot you're supposed to, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever feel sometimes like things truly can feel overwhelmingly heavy? And I know how you see energy but does that emotion ever come over you? Like sometimes when I'm connecting, it makes me full on start crying. And I'm just like, it's like fills up my heart so much, but it feels like you have a really good you can disconnect and be almost just business.
Well, fair. That's a good way to look at it. But I look at it in the sense of my responsibility through this is to allow them to have that experience and me just being in the right place at the right time, being able to make things clear for them. Right. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I can get emotional for sure. There's two parts to that, though. If I may talk about it, the show that you guys were at, was I trying to practice empathy? Remember, was that the empathy one? No, I think that was another one where somebody said you need to have empathy to do that. I said I'm empathetic. And then I went on and said, okay, watch this. I'm going to be empathetic right now. And it was just this big joke. But the empathy part, remember that if you have empathy for others, that empathy was also meant for yourself. So you need to be kind to yourself through when you're working with energy to have that healthy boundary. And if we were affected by what's going on in someone else's life to a point where it's affecting our own, then we have to step back and decide who we want to be through it again, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, if you're a therapist, when you go home to your family, there's a good chance that you take some time to release and leave work at work. And that's the same kind of mentality that I use. I go to my bubble to work in front of a crowd. And then at some point in the next couple hours after it's done, I kind of pop out and I'm just back to Jennie for a bit. And then I go to work and I go over there. And I really had to create that separation because I really needed to honor kind of my personal space through that. And because I was walking around being a medium all the time. Right. And that's just a piece of me. So I needed to make that clear.
Yeah, like setting those clear boundaries. Because when I first started connecting to spirit, I'd be everywhere and spirits would be bugging me. I'd be getting my oil change and the guy's mom is talking to me. And I was just like, I can't handle this. Like, I don't like, at first you're like, oh, this is kind of neat. And then it starts affecting me as like, okay, now I need to figure out like putting up a wall or like, figuring out your boundaries.
Do you understand when people say, I just need to shut it off? Like people ask me, how do you shut it off? And I'm like, well, I don't. And again, let's go back to the analogy of the river. If you're not looking at the river, does it stop flowing?
Yeah.
Right. And in the winter, the river still flows, even though it has ice on it. There's stuff that you just cannot stop. So if you want to like have a Kit Kat break, go ahead. And if you feel like you need to build a wall or a fort or a fence, that's a lot of work to, you know, that's a lot of work for you to do that when you know it isn't even going to work. Like,
Yeah, you're right. I never even thought of that. It's almost like sometimes I feel like I just picture a dial and just turning that dial down. So it's like it's not so loud and going on all the time. Like, do you, like, say you're walking around Walmart or something, do you have spirit coming in? Like, can you just kind of push them to the distance, or how does that work?
now with, I'm going to call myself a seasoned performer and medium. Whenever you spend this much time doing something, you get really good at knowing who you want to be through it. So when I go to Walmart, I'm not thinking about anybody else. I got my grocery list and I got my list to do. But what I will say though is in doing this work, because the more and more people get to know me, I'll go out and like people were like, "Are you Jennie?" And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, "Oh, we went to your show." I mean, I flew up to Whitehorse for a show and two people came up at the airport and said, "Are you Jennie?" And I'm like, my daughter's a little weirded up about that when we're out. But other than that, I spend a lot of time just with one, maybe two people or myself. I'm not a big goer outer at all. So that's changed me being that, and I've really become very clear that I'm not one of the people that you would say, "Hey, do you want to come on like a girls' weekend with me? You know, there's 15 of us going." I'm like, fuck that. I ain't going. And I think the other thing that is very clear to me now is, yeah, I only need a few friends and I really enjoy hanging out with myself and learning about myself.
Yes.
I mean, I'm the only one, I'm the closest one to me. So I'd like to spend time kind of, you know, getting my Dora backpack on and visiting every corner of my field, right? And seeing what kind of treasures are there. So that's kind of the journey that I'm on. And I make it very clear that when I'm not working, like if that's something that you need, here's my card, right?
Mhm.
Like I just keep it very separate. And so that's kind of how I roll with people.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of feel like I'm going through. Oh, sorry. Were
No,
you saying?
I was just going to say, I'm really sorry. I'm chatty Cathy.
No, it's so
No,
good. I
that's
love
what
it.
we
Please.
want. Yes.
Yeah.
You're
Please
the
follow.
guest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
People listen to us all the time. I was going to say, Jennie, that I feel like I'm going through that as well. Like it was May long weekend here and I was glad to be at home, like not out being social, or I felt like weird that I should have been, I don't know, family camping or just doing something with the family. But I'm like, oh, I kind of like being in my backyard, and I had Reiki clients all weekend and it felt really good to be home. It's like, I like home. I like being here and I like my company too. And yeah, there's something grounded about that, I guess.
Can I ask you something about your Reiki business?
Yeah.
Okay, so what drew you to being in that modality?
I just love Reiki. I love the energy. I love feeling the energy, connecting in and help moving. I love it. I feel like I'm obsessed with it.
Okay, great. And what is that teaching you now? What are you learning about yourself that, number one, what I'm hearing is that you found something that you're really passionate about and you leaned in and you didn't think twice about it,
Yeah.
right? And now you're passionate about it. And here we are dabbling still over here on the other side. Can you help me? Can you clarify kind of what the story really is of what's going on here? Because do you see how it doesn't make sense now?
I'm so like, I'm so confident in when I Reiki a client. I'm so confident in it. I feel like I'm you when you're on stage. Like if someone tried to doubt the Reiki, it's like, no, I feel it. I know where it's going. I know it did its job. Even if maybe you didn't have the same experience that I did when I was the practitioner, I feel so good about it. I would never doubt a session on the Reiki end.
Perfect.
Ever.
But Reiki is a part of the entire experience,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So what if all of this is an absolute part of this understanding of more, or the knowing of the knowing? What if the Reiki was the catalyst that got you into this, so that life is now pushing you to go deeper, or as I use the stairs, because I think I used in the show, if you just want to look for like a dime, you're going to stay in the kindergarten version of your spirituality, right? So what about that next step? What about that next step? What is this Reiki unveiling for you?
Reiki is like the gateway drug. We've said it is the start of a whole staircase, which is why the mediumship, I'm walking the stairs. I am walking the stairs.
So let's not call it mediumship. I mean, I absolutely hate, I don't even like being called a medium, but apparently I have to, because people don't. I just call myself Jennie, the lady who talks about fuck sandwiches. A lot of people wouldn't understand me. Okay, so what is it that you're gonna need to do to acknowledge and appreciate the stair that you're on right now? Because you're above the Reiki. Now,
well, I definitely appreciate how far I've come, especially in this last year. And
I didn't ask you where you were in the last year. I asked you where you are right now. What would it take for you in the now, with everything that you've learned right now? What is it going to take for you to just kind of lead in and know that the information is there, just like all the Reiki stuff?
What would it take? When I have a client, I say whatever it is that comes through, even if I said, I don't know if this is going to resonate. And if it doesn't, well, just throw it out, or maybe hang on to it for another date. But I'm just getting to that place where just say whatever it is, just trust what's coming through. Because there's some stuff that's so weird. It's like, well, this isn't my thoughts. It's like, I wasn't thinking about this movie, ever. Why is it coming through? Why is it relevant?
Well, see, that's where our bitch self gets involved here, where if you say, I'm seeing a herd of elephants, and you're sitting in a theater in Saskatchewan, you know that is just out of the ordinary and it's impossible. But there's a reason why your awareness is bringing you there.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm using that. So I'll follow that with a session that I had with a gentleman. It's been a long time, but he came in and he sat on the couch, and I just looked at them, because I usually just chat for a bit. And I said, what's going on? All of a sudden I just saw all these elephants passing in front of my face, and he put his money down and he hugged me and he says goodbye. And I found out, like, his wife, who had just passed, was a really big elephant lover, and that was her code word for him. So he didn't need anything else other than me to say elephant, and then he left. I was like, you never know what people need, but that to him was like life-changing.
Yeah.
I can't make that shit up.
No.
Right? Like, how do I get to there?
Yes.
So it's that idea of where you're at, you're right there and you're listening. So if I could just offer you just a piece of, or a suggestion here, the next time you eat something, can you not start it with a side of shit stew? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I'm getting it. Just say it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely will. You're right. Like 100% right. Thank you for that. I definitely needed to hear that.
Like that lady at your show that had the queen. Remember, I kept saying
yes,
Lillian. I don't know. I can't remember Lillian. And there was this queen thing, and I keep seeing the tiara and da 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 da. Well, in the halftime, she came up and she showed me paper clipping from the 19 whatever of her with her queen this and her tiara on that her aunt that came through gave her.
right.
So
right.
That was amazing.
All I know is what I receive, and I can't make an orange an apple. And if you don't understand, and I've learned that us humans are the slowest processors of anything. So it may take time because you have to stand back and create that space of going, oh, okay, if I'm not technically literal and she's talking blue, but I think it's dark blue, it's still blue. Do you know what I mean? Like, we try our hardest to keep everything really organized in file folders so that we can understand it. But you cannot explain how you feel about something when you're just feeling so present, right? Or in love. Like, I can't explain it. I just love them so much, or I love this person so much. Like, I just can't explain it. Do you notice that? Well, you're not supposed to explain it. You're supposed to experience it. And that's all I'm doing on stage, is experiencing being in this person's energy for like 1 second. And within that 1 second, it tells me a story. And that's it. I know I make it sound simple because connecting to energy isn't hard, but you need availability to do it.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, that's a great way to explain that. That definitely makes sense to me. And it's so funny, like looking back at some of the sessions I've had, it's like when it's something that I don't say and then I say it, that's the message that lands. Like that's the one that person came to hear, like about a yellow jacket or a bowl of M&Ms. If I didn't say that, if I just brushed it off, they would have just been like, meh, but I just trusted and I just say what I see or what I'm feeling and just see how it lands. So that's a great reminder, just to trust what is coming through. Just say it.
Yeah. And the next thing to remember is now I would want you to sit and really, really expand your knowledge on what trust is to you. What is trust? What is that? Because you had an experience, but look at it as every visceral experience we have, like, in order to feel love, you need to be open and available. Okay, well, what does availability mean? And try to find the main ingredients, like for you, for instance, in trust. What are the 2 things you need in order to trust yourself? And then work from that and create a recipe that really works for you, because it's all such an individual experience, right? So, and that is what you teach people. So could you imagine, like with your Reiki, could you imagine just leaning back and trusting that all of this is a part of the bigger picture, instead of like grouping it or departmentalizing it and saying, I'm really good at this part? No, I think you're really good at the whole piece, but it's how you're processing it that makes you think. Because for you in your life, you need to be really great at everything that you do, like super mom, super pet owner, super, great partner, everything. You need to be excellent at what you do. And how's that working? It's exhausting, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
To both of you, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why is it that you're loving exactly what you do and you're completely exhausted doing it? This is where those emotional dust bunnies that hide underneath your couch kind of sit, and then they get bigger and bigger. And we don't generally clean under our couch, but 2 or 3 times a year. This is about everything that you guys are doing is a piece of your growth, right? So if you were going to water your garden in the front of your house, you wouldn't just water one flower, you'd water the whole garden.
Right. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So look at it like that. They're all growing because you planted it.
That's right. I love that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
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 Just like expand. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a great example. Let's use animals again. Like, how does a butterfly know how to fly? How does a coyote know how to hunt?
Right.
It's an instinct. And if we were to get more connected with our instincts, we'd understand that this doesn't have to be departmentalized. It's one great big body of energy. And you're not just going to go and swim in one corner of it. You're going to go and float your way through all pieces of it, right? So just lean back and have fun with it.
Yes, yeah. I definitely need to have more fun and not be so serious and rigid and just like, what if nothing comes through? But then something always comes through. I don't know why I do that to myself. Just
I mean, here I am walking out on the stage of 550 people on your night. I got nothing. I can't plan for any of that. I will start to hear names kind of a couple hours before, but I don't know their story until I start to say, okay, well, I've got Susan here, and then Susan shows me that, and then I see this picture of like, she was a lawyer, or she was a nurse, or she had cancer, whatever it's going to come out of my mouth. I'm literally just that present that it shows up in that moment.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing. We wanted to ask, is there anything you do to prepare for a show? Like, do you meditate, or what do you do for that?
So, okay, I've got a different perspective on meditation. So I look at it as two different ways. You can meditate, meaning setting yourself up to be the best version of yourself during the day and honor kind of like where your boundaries are. And then there's a thing called attunement. So you're attuning to yourself, attuning to your spirit. You're not trying to convince yourself of anything. You're just checking, really clocking in with the trueness of who you are, because that doesn't change. Our filter out here does, but we don't change. The knowing doesn't change. So I would say I attune more, but years ago, it would be like, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to visualize. I'm not even going to tell you how I went to spirit world before, because it didn't even make any sense, but I had to go with it. Okay. I went up an escalator in my mind. Then I ended up on this major, huge, like air hockey table. Like it looked like an arena, and it had a big room and a little broom. And that was my way of saying, clearing all of my stuff away. Then I get the little broom and get all the little pieces. And at the other end of the air hockey table was this path that had little pebbles on it. And it went to like bar saloon doors. And that's where my spirit guy was standing. I mean, I had to do that. Like, I know, laugh all you want. But now it's just like I walk into my field and I see someone standing there and I have a conversation with them. So it's 2 seconds.
I laugh because I also go up the elevator. That's why I was laughing. I thought, oh my God, I don't see an air hockey table. That's you. But the elevator thing really, like.
Yeah, I do that too, in a forest, and then I arrive, and yeah, it's like a whole thing.
Yeah, that saying, it's called like mind over matter. Mm-hmm. Your mind is so powerful. Your mind can change the entire journey of your life, because it's that powerful. So if you keep saying you're dabbling, you're always going to be great at dabbling. Because your mind, that's what your mind, you're telling your mind that's what you're capable of doing.
So true. I don't like that narrative. I'm going to change it. Yeah.
No more fuck sandwiches for you.
Yeah, no. Christy doesn't tell me things like this.
No, I
don't. Okay, that's awesome.
What did you guys feel you received, like, out of that show? Not even knowing kind of this is where we'd be ending up on a podcast, but what happened that night? Explain to me what shifted.
Yeah, with me, it was your confidence. That just really, I like being like not a confident person. Then it's like, how am I supposed to be confident in my practice? And then watching you walk on that stage and just owning it and being so confident on everything, I was like, damn, this is inspiring. Like, I want to be like her. And that just lit me up. And then also with like, you would bring through that validation for people, but then you would also bring through a message, like that one woman living in victimhood. It's like that stops today. And it's like, I just see these little seeds that you plant. And it's like that person is always going to have that seed planted in her after being at that show. And just thinking of everyone that was supposed to be there was there and at that time. And I don't know, that just really inspired me. I just loved every second of that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. How about you?
Okay, so one thing that I really liked, I felt like there was times where it almost seemed like you were channeling. I just like, you're so present and in the moment. It's just like, you don't, like, there's not one time it felt like you even stuttered over any words. It was just like you were just this present, open channel. No, honestly, and it just felt like, I feel like she's just letting this all just happen and just be. And I was like, and I was thinking that I need to do that when I'm getting messages and stuff during Reiki, I just need to like almost not like step aside, but like kind of just like let that ego part kind of step aside and
Yeah,
just let the
step
flow
aside.
happen.
Your ego does not have any space in this area.
Yeah.
You, you do not require to have that doing this.
Hmm.
And I got to be honest, and doing this for so long, getting up and channeling, and however people do their shows, great, good for them if they feel comfortable. But standing up and being, I'm a medium, I'm going to channel your loved ones and do this, and do 50 of them. And all you're getting is the information. And I thought, I can't be that kind of a person. I know it's very clear to me that when your loved ones come through, they come through for a reason, not just because they're dead, right? And that was a very valid question. If your loved one came through to you tonight, what would you actually want? And the majority of people will answer, and it's not that they want anything. They just want to know that they're okay. The person that's died, and they've stopped living because they don't know that. Well, if I tell them that they are okay and what is okay to you, it would be still that whole idea that you have to go within now and heal and allow yourself to live in the now rather than the 1 second of one day, and that you can continue this connection. And so channeling is just a small part of how I have transitioned. Like last year, I just said, screw this. I need to have bigger conversations. I don't want to be a horse and a pony show. I will show you what it's like. But when you leave here, I don't want you going home and saying, Jennie is like such a great medium. No, it's how did you feel when you left?
Yeah.
Like, what are you inspired to do?
Yeah.
That's it. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just doing my own journey of, listen, I jump and ask later, now over 400 shows. I guess it worked out.
Yeah. 400 shows in a book. Let's talk about your book.
Do we have to?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
That's so exciting. Did you self-publish?
Yeah, I worked with a lady. We did all the voice recordings, and then she made the words better. Her name is Goldstein. She has a bunch of books out herself, and I worked with her and self-published. And first week on Amazon, I hit #1 in 3 different categories.
Wow.
And of course, being #1 in Amazon only lasts for a very short time.
Yeah.
And being self-published on average, on a good year, you would maybe sell around 700 books. And I think I did over 2,000 books my first year, and I've done almost 1,000 already in 4 months. So,
yeah, that is awesome.
I don't know. I don't even read, but everyone said, so I listen to podcasts instead. So that's why when you open the book, it's very short, like Chicken Soup for the Soul chapters. And some of the chapters are a really swift kick in the balls when you read them. And it says right here, that's the fuck sandwich. And it talks about
there we go, a visual.
Yeah. And it talks about some deep things, hard things, people I've worked with. And at the end, I ended it with my eulogy, Y-O-U-ology. So that's my eulogy to myself for the book. So if I died tomorrow, somebody would have to read my eulogy in the back. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you talk in your book about like advice for other people who are getting started out and things like that? Who want to know?
There's enough people out there doing these, hey, here's the Intro to Mediumship 101. And I think that those courses are important. Like I went to Arthur Findlay over in England and to work with some tutors there. And my first time I went, I signed up for Intro to Mediumship. And I remember my tutor's name was Matthew. And I was there for 2 weeks. And at the end of the first week, Matthew came to me and said, so you don't need to be an intro, you need to be an advanced. So I went from like not even knowing shit to with Simone Keys, like for a week, and she does advanced mediumship. So that completely shifted my life. I'd gone there a few times, but I decided, for me, I just needed to understand who I'm going to be, because especially through the Spiritual National Union that Arthur Finley's with, they expect that their readers do certain things in certain ways and stay on the podium, and but I don't. I swear, I hug my people. I tell them to, I throw the F-bomb, whatever. Like I just couldn't, if I was going to do this, I had to be me. Yeah. Right. So I think there's enough courses out there, but I don't want people to become that person teaching that course. That's the key to being really good at anything that you do. Like, don't try to be someone else. And if somebody's going to mentor you and you're questioning everything, I think the key to being really present and understanding energy is to do your own personal work and don't look at them as separate things.
No, I can totally relate to that. Because, going down this journey, I totally went to the depths of my soul and like healing myself and cleaning out my closet. And it's not for the faint of heart, but I wouldn't change anything. That's for sure.
I think it's really important to remember too, that when you're healing, you're still going to have bad days. When you've overcome some trauma, you're still going to have some triggers. Yeah. And that you haven't arrived anywhere, but you have better tools in your tool belt to handle these things. So instead of knowing that the rabbit hole is there so you can jump down it and wonder if rock bottom has a basement, you can make a choice before you jump down, right? And say, okay, so what tool am I going to use here to make that hole less important?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Just building that toolbox and knowing when to reach in and when to grab which tool. That's very helpful.
I don't know if I shared this quote with you. You cannot possibly be lost in your life when you have had this much experience living it. Mm-hmm. So what if we changed the idea around that as saying, I'm exactly where I need to be with the people that I need to be, and I'm supposed to be receiving and giving. What if we just looked at it like that? Then everything would change in that moment, right?
Yeah, totally would.
That's just kind of how I roll. Like there's no set way to do anything because every experience is different. Yeah. No, for me, I don't know if you guys do this, but randomly you just kind of sit and you start making notes. And I had this book of notes and I can kind of see where I've grown and how and where I am and what's important to me and stuff. And if there's one thing I do love about what I do is I never know what's going to come out of my mouth, and everything is so in the moment, and it can be so inappropriate, but funny as shit.
Yeah.
Oh, right? So funny. Yeah. I hope if anyone ever gets a chance to go and see you, I hope they do. It's more than just a mediumship. Like it's lighthearted. It's fun. It was such a fun birthday event. Like us and two other girls went. It was so much fun.
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. I wish I could be down in the audience watching my show because I don't know what that looks like to people. Because I'm just going, oh my God, what did I just say in my head? Are you serious? I said that out loud.
It's well received.
Oh yeah.
I don't want everybody to love my show. That's impossible. I would want something that doesn't exist. So I'm for some people and I'm not for others, but it's taken me on a journey. So I'm just making sure I have a really good grip on where I am right now, and I'm not letting go.
Yeah. Good for you.
Really appreciate you giving me this opportunity to hang with you girls.
Yeah.
Oh, we were so excited that you wanted to come on and have a chat because we were just so lit up after that show. I was like, oh my goodness, we need to talk to her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we love that you took the time because we know you're busy. And what's like in store for you next? Are you going on tour again or?
Yeah, so I have a big corporate event on Thursday, and then I'm in Westlock, Alberta I'm partnering with the Soul Sister Foundation up in Westlock at the Cultural Arts Center for a theater show. And then I'm gonna head out of the country for a week. I'm gonna go to Belgium for a week. Nice. And just kind of have a break. And then I have 15 shows coming up from middle of September to the beginning of November. So everywhere from Dawson Creek, Prince George, Medicine Hat, Lloydminster, everywhere in between. I can't even begin to tell you. Drayton Valley, I'm going to go. Grand Prairie, to name a few.
Okay.
Awesome.
Wow. That is awesome. Or where can people find out more about you?
They can visit my website at jennieogilvie.com. And if you just Google Calgary Medium or Jennie Medium, I'll be able to come up. And most of the shows are posted now for the fall, but there are some still getting done this week. And you can find the links to my book, audiobook, ebook, and paperback on Amazon. Yeah, and on my website as well.
Right on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to check that out for sure.
Yes.
What?
Good.
You didn't buy a book there?
I know, I didn't, but I should. I can even order it from your site. I heard that's better than going through Amazon.
Yes. Well, you can. If you do it through my site, I'll sign it and send it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
Okay.
Well, thank you
I
so much for
appreciate
being
your
here.
time. Thank you so much. And just lean back and float, both of you.
Yeah.
Sounds way easier. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so for today's card pull, I'm going to use an oracle deck, and then I'm going to use traditional Rider Waite's tarot deck. So messages for the listeners. There was about 1,000 cards that just flew out. So I'm going to take the one that was still flipped upside down. And this one says release. So work with Archangel Michael to let go of what no longer serves you or your purpose. You know, it actually kind of makes me think of our episode with Jennie. It's like release that ego, and just there's in this picture, there's all these birds flying, and it's just like let go, and just like she said, let the river take you. There's also this river in this card as well, and it's like just float along with it. Stop trying to swim upstream. It's way too exhausting. And don't limit yourself either. Like let yourself just naturally fly and be with the birds. Oh, I love that. And I'm just going to grab some tarot as well to go with it and see what comes out. Oh, this is so funny. Okay, so for my tarot cards, I got the Five of Cups to go with the release card. And so in the Five of Cups, it shows this man who is, he has 5 cups. He has 3 in front of him and 2 behind him. But he's focused on the 3 that have fallen down and not the 2 that are still standing up behind him. So it's like, where are you bringing your focus here? It's like, you're sad that there was 3 cups that fell over, but there's 2 that are still up there and they're still good. So again, it actually kind of makes me think about what Jeannie said. Am I dabbling? What words am I using to like shorten myself or limit myself when it's like, no, you got a lot going on and that's where you need to focus on. Because the next cards that came out was the Hangman. And this is all about seeing things differently. So this is a man literally hanging upside down. And it's like all about like looking at things from a different angle. And then I have the 10 of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles, which is all about like abundance. And this King of Pentacles is totally sure of himself and super wealthy. And this like this 10 of Pentacles, like it's family, it's money, it's abundance all coming in. And then even the Sun as well, which is happiness and just having everything. So beautiful message here. It's like, so what are we bringing our focus on? How are we limiting ourselves, changing our narrative and our words? Our words really do matter. If I'm just going to say, I'm just practicing, I'm not very good, like that's exactly where I'm going to stay. So if I'm positive and I'm confident, just how I am with Reiki, that's what's going to shine. And for me, that is totally what I'm taking away from this message. Sorry, every listener, this was for me. No, I'm sure this was for you too, but yeah, wow. Really, really good message. Jennie had so many good ones for us too. And that is the reading. I will post this on our Instagram for you.
That was like bang on. I needed to hear that too.
Oh,
Like, wow.
I know. So
Yeah,
good.
just stepping away and like setting that ego aside and just being present and just owning it.
I know. Just float with the current.
Yeah. I love that. Oh, that just lights me up.
Me too.
What a good conversation today. I really enjoyed that.
Same. So good. And you can find us, our Living the Reiki Life on Instagram. And we each have our own personal handles. Mine is Reiki with Manda.
And you'll find me at the Birch Soul.
Yeah, and we are both currently accepting clients. If anyone is interested and wants to reach out to us, go ahead. We would love to connect with you. We love all the messages that we get. So feel free to keep those coming.
Yes.
All right. Well, take care, everyone.
Yep. Have a good week.
1, 2,